Hey, welcome to another episode of Search News You Can Use with me, Dr. Marie Haynes. In this episode, we have a bunch of things to talk about. We're going to talk about the page speed update, and I'm going to share with you what I'm seeing in terms of whether or not this update has actually had an effect on websites. And we'll talk about a bunch of other things too. There's been some Google announcements, some good local SEO stuff as well for those of you who are in that space. So let's get right on to sharing here. All right, so algorithm updates. So every week, what I do when I prepare my newsletter is I look at Google Analytics and Google Search Console data for every site that I have access to, which is quite a few sites. And I'm looking to see, was there a particular date on which a lot of sites saw movement? So for the last week, definitely July 9th, there were a number of sites that saw movement. That was the day that Google announced that the page speed update was live. However, if we look at these algo checkers, so this is from Mozcast. Mozcast is showing a tiny bit of an increase. This basically, the higher the number here, the more turbulence there is, meaning that some sites were increasing, some sites were decreasing, and it was a little bit up, but really not that significant compared to some other dates. And again, the SEMrush sensor shows that there was something going on, but not a whole lot. I find Algoroo often is super accurate in picking up algorithm turbulence, but really there wasn't a whole lot going on that day. And so then we looked at a bunch of our clients, though. And like I said, we did see clients that saw significant changes. This is one of our clients that's in a fairly competitive niche. And this date right about here was July 9th. And so they definitely saw some increases there. We'll see if this continues. I don't think this is a seasonal thing. And this site does have very good page speed scores. This is using Google's Page Speed Insights tool. I don't see a lot of sites that get as high as this. Good is 80 and above. So 99 out of 100 is great. Now, what we're thinking happened here, the way that the page speed update is supposed to work, is that it's not that this site got a boost, but rather competitors who had lower scores saw some sort of a reduction. Now, it turns out that this particular site, I think, saw a boost up just for their main keyword, which is what's bringing in all this traffic. So I'm going to have more information to report back on that next time. But I wanted to show you a couple of other cases. First of all, the reason why we use the Page Speed Insights tool is because I'm fairly certain that a Google employee at some point said that if your score in terms of optimization is in green, then that's a good thing. And so I really do feel like Google uses the information from this tool to determine which sites need to be demoted because of poor page speed. And we've always been looking at the optimization score and telling people that if that number is in the red, then you definitely need to do work on it. If you're already in good, improving it just a little bit better is probably not going to make a big difference in terms of rankings. So this particular site is another client that we had done some work with in the past. And we can see that they're actually seeing some decreases that coincide with July 9th. In Google Analytics, this is even more significant. Often the SEMrush stuff doesn't, and also SEMrush is reporting, these are desktop rankings, so it's not 100% accurate to look at SEMrush for this information. The point is, though, that even in Google Analytics, which is more accurate, this site saw a significant drop, yet they have good page speed scores. So what could be happening here is, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't think that the page speed update demotes sites, promotes sites, I should say, meaning that it's not like a competitor all of a sudden bumped up into the green and saw improvements. It's hard to say what's happening here. And this is another site that didn't make sense. I didn't screenshot the page speed score here, but this site has page speed insight scores that are in the red. And yet they saw, and this is reflected in analytics as well, saw a really nice increase in traffic. So I don't know what's happening here. Either the page speed update doesn't work the way that we thought it did, or there's something else that's going on. And I think it's possible there was some type of a quality update on that date as well. And Google's just confusing us by saying it was the speed update. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. I'm going to be analyzing more sites that potentially saw changes around July 9th and see if we can find some patterns for you. Those of you who use the Search Console API, they've increased the number of requests that you can make to 25,000, which is a good improvement. And I'm excited about this, that they're actually including more features soon to use query data and to filter that. So that's something we're playing around with as a team, just using the API and seeing what kind of information we can get from it. This looks important. Now, this announcement came out just as I was publishing the newsletter, so I think I'll probably have more on this next week. But in Google Analytics now, Google's changing how images are image referrals. Basically, there's a new URL source that will come up as a referral for image search. So if you get a lot of searches from image, this is something you want to pay attention to. Google Jobs has been live in the US and Canada for a while. It's live in the UK now. And so this is maybe good news for people looking for jobs, not good news if you actually have a website that advertises jobs. It does look like Google's pulling from some of the more popular websites like Glassdoor. I've seen Indeed on here as well. If you want to get into, if you want jobs to be listed here, you can implement schema for jobs. Although so far what I've seen is it all seems to be from the larger job portals that are in here. So a lot of people are not happy about that change because it's just another instance of Google taking the information that is should be found on a website and actually displaying it right in the SERPs. So let's see where that goes. I thought this was interesting. So somebody tweeted at John Mueller asking how accurate Webmaster Tools is. I was, if those of you who listen to my podcast will laugh because I was saying how I've finally gotten better at not saying Webmaster Tools and saying Google Search Console. And instead, I think I called it Google Master Console or something like that. So those of you who have been in SEO for a few years are probably like me, where you were stuck for years in saying Webmaster Tools, but Search Console. So John said that the Search Console data is super accurate in terms of rankings. And I know a lot of SEOs will disagree with him on that. So we thought we'd do a little study. Now, one thing to note here is that this study is a very small scale study, and there's a lot of limitations to this study. But I wanted to walk you through what we found here. So we hypothesized that Google Search Console rankings would be fairly similar to what we would see in real life. And so what we did was we looked at a number of different clients of ours, and we looked at just one date that was the same day that we were actually doing the searches, just the United States and just desktop. And we looked at each keyword and we made these little charts that basically said, all right, so for this keyword, our checking saw that it was at number 2 and Search Console said it was, 2.4. And so that's pretty close. But then there were other keywords that were less accurate. This one, it's not too bad. 3 in Search Console reported higher. For this particular site, it wasn't too bad. But there were some sites that were way off. So, for example, our searches for this client said they were number 25 for this keyword, and yet Search Console had them at like number 4 or something. Now, that a lot of these terms were because they were maybe locational terms. And when I do a search, even if I'm using google.com on a US proxy, I'm not necessarily in the same city as other people who are doing these searches. So location can really mess things up. But we found that, for some sites, only 70% of keywords were what we were seeing was within one ranking position from what Google Search Console was reporting. And for other sites, things were not good. Like this one site, only 40% of keywords were what we saw was accurate compared to what Search Console was reporting. So we want to do a part 2 to this. And the part 2 is basically to look at some of the popular rank checkers and just see how they compare to what we're seeing in real life and what Search Console is reporting. And so hopefully we'll put that in the study soon, so that I think within the next couple of weeks, we should have that information for you as well. Those of you who use Bing's Webmaster Tools API, it's down. It's been down for a while. I don't know if that's been fixed yet, but something to be aware of. Let's talk a little bit about local SEO. It's pretty exciting now for Google Posts that there is a call to action that you can add. And so Joy has a good example here of how she used this. See if I can get this to work. No, that's all right. We'll move on. Point is that there is a call to action button that you can use on your Google Posts. And so anything you can do to try to get more business for your clients is a good thing. Oh, there we go. So there you go. So you can leave a review, you can call. So you can actually have that call now. So I'm going to do that for, we don't have a whole lot of local clients, but the ones that we do have, definitely we want to be adding this because, again, as easy as you can make it for customers to reach you, the better. Somebody's noted that there are some events now that are showing in knowledge panels. So, for example, you're searching for this business and they tell you that today there's a special event there. I think that's probably something that shows up with event schema, but it's hard to say for sure. And this is something that it hasn't rolled out to everybody yet, but apparently there is a new feature now where we can see keywords in Google My Business, which is kind of exciting because we lost a lot of keywords, but not everybody has it. So I'll report more on that once we get more information. And then the rest of the newsletter is recommended reading, which there's a lot of really good articles in there this week. You can find the newsletter. It's in the link below on the YouTube description. That's also at mariehaynes.com/newsletter. You can find it there. Those of you, if any of you are in the Ottawa, Ontario area, we are hiring again. So super exciting. Our business is really, really growing, and I was able to give some raises out to our staff, and we're ready to hire a couple more people. So if you're interested in learning how to do really good SEO, we do a lot of analysis of sites, probably do a lot of writing too. And if that's in your wheelhouse, it is a local position though. So, you need to be here. You can't. I get people all the time that are asking if they can telecommute or do remote work, and unfortunately, we have to. The way that we do it is we're training all day long. I mean, I'm learning stuff all day long. We have a big television screen that we cast to, and so as we're reviewing sites, and we say, why isn't the site ranking for this query? And then we'll get the whole team's input, and somebody will say, well, you know what, like this site actually is recognized as a brand in this country, and just other things like that. So so you definitely need to be here if you want to have the job. So that's all that I have for you this week. If you are into podcasts at all, my podcast on iTunes is really, really doing well. So I would encourage you to download that. You can find it under either Marie Haynes or Search News you can use. And thank you for watching this video. Again, as always, if you want to leave a comment, if you have a question about your site, leave a comment on the video and I'll reply to you. And if you hit subscribe, then you will be notified whenever I do this video on a weekly basis. So that's it. I wish you the best of luck with your rankings this week, and we'll talk soon.